Hi, let's start session 9.2. In this session, we are going to actually use JavaScript to write content into a web page itself. To do that, we have to work with objects. So what's an object? Object is an entity within the browser or web page that has properties or basically attributes that defines it and methods or action that can be acted upon. For example, a video embedded on a web page is an object and has properties such as source of the video film or the width and height of the video player. So these are the attributes or the properties. And the method such as playing or pausing the video is called a method. JavaScript is basically an object-based language that manipulates an object by changing one or more of its property or applying method that affects the object's behavior within the web page or the browser. There are four kinds of JavaScript objects that's out there. Built-in objects that are intrinsic to the JavaScript language, browser objects that are part of the browser, and document objects that are part of the web document, and as well as customized objects, which can be created by the programmer for using it in their own application. Browser object and documented object are basically organized in a hierarchical structure called Browser Object Model or BOM. And the document object model called DOM. This is, you can see in here. So this is the object hierarchy that we will have. Each object within the object hierarchy are basically referenced by its object name, such as window, document, or navigator. Because every object aside from the window object is nested within other object, we can reference an object within the hierarchy using this object1.object2.object3. Where object 1 is at the top of the hierarchy, object 2 is a child of object 1, and object 3 is also child of object 2, and so on. Next thing that we are going to talk about is referencing object collection. Objects are basically organized into groups called object collection. So basically, you can have, to reference a specific number of objects, we can actually have collection in there, or collection.idref, where the collection is a reference to the object collection, and idref is either an index number representing the position of the object in the collection, or basically the value of ID of the attribute that's assigned to the element. So basically, this is describing some of the objects found within the document object model. So one of them could be document.images, document.frames, document.forms, document.embeds. We have another method. If there is a problem with the object collection, is that JavaScript will have to search through the entire collection to locate a specific item. If the object collection is very large, it can be very time consuming. So the program could actually slow down. So another more efficient way to this approach is to use reference an element by its ID attribute. So using this expression document.get element by ID and ID, where ID is the value of the ID attribute. So this is basically a more efficient way. We can modify the object by two ways, by changing the object properties or by applying a method. First, we are going to look at the object properties here. Object property is accessed using the following expression: object.property, where object is a reference to an object and property is a property associated with that object. Basically, you can change some property, not all the properties can be modified. For instance, if you have the navigator object representing the browser, support the app version property, which returns the version number of the browser program. You can use the expression navigator.appversion to look at the version number of the browser, but you cannot use the JavaScript to change the browser version. So that's why some of the properties cannot be modified. The second way to modify an object is by applying a method to it. A method can be thought as action. So when you think about method, you can think about action. Methods are applied using object.method values. Where object is reference to an object, method is the name of the method that can be applied to the object, and the value is a comma-separated list of value that's associated with that method. We can apply object method, like if we have an object method, we can actually have something like window.alert, welcome to California. In this command, the window object represents the browser window, and the alert method is the method that displays a dialog box within the browser window. And the text string, welcome to California, is the value associated with that alert method that sent the text of the dialog box. The next thing that we are going to look at is how to write the HTML code. The HTML code that's stored within a page element can be referenced using the this element.innerHTML. Well, element is an object reference to an element within a web document. For example, we can write this. So this is the command, this is the comment, and then we can have this document.getElement by ID date now, and then innerHTML equals to the month, date, and year. So what we will see will be this content written with the JavaScript. So now in this list, you can see other JavaScript property and methods that can be used to modify the content of the page element. So you can see the description for them. So sometimes we might want to use the text content property if we want to modify the content more efficiently. We can use that, or if we want to basically use maybe the maybe basically change the date or something like that, date, hours, minutes, to if we have some value and we want to change it maybe to text string, we can use that. And each other method or property, you can use it for other purposes, other description that you have in here. The next thing that we are going to talk about is that we will start talking about variables. So variables is basically a named item in a program that store a data value, such as number, text string, or an object. It can be part of web browser or browser window. Variables, they are useful because they can store information created in one part of a script, and basically you can use that information somewhere else. So how to declare variables? Variables basically are introduced into a script by declaring the variable called var variable equals to value, where the variable is the name assigned to the variable and the value is the variable's initial value. So for example, we can have var current day equals to maybe November 1st, 2017. We don't have to provide an initial value to a variable. We can leave the variable's value undefined. So we can just have maybe variable var current day. And we can declare multiple variables by entering the variable name in a comma separated list as well. So we can have like var current day, and then put the day, and then we can put current year, put the year. There are some conditions that we have to basically put in our head that when we want to use the variable is that a first character must be either a letter or an underscore character. The remaining characters can be letters, number, or underscore characters. Variable name, they cannot contain spaces, and you cannot use names that are part of JavaScript language itself. For instance, you can't name a variable document or window or text content. Now let's look at the data types. JavaScript variable can basically store different types of information, which we call them data types. The data types could be numeric value, text string, Boolean value, object, or it could be a null value. Basically, a numeric value is any number. It could be 13, 22, 3.4, and so on. A text string is a group of characters enclosed with either double or single quotation. So we can have, for example, May. It's a text string. Boolean value indicates the truth or the false of a statement. There are two possible Boolean values, true or false. And then object simplifies code by removing the need to rewrite complicated object reference. And null value, basically it indicates that no value has yet been assigned to the variable. One type of object that we can store in a variable is a date object, which is basically a built-in JavaScript object. It can be used to store information about the dates and time, and this is very useful. Date objects are basically, they are being defined by putting the new date, month, and year. So this new date, it creates a date object. And this variable current date, this declares the current day variable. So we can put variable current day equals new date. When we put new date, we are creating that date object. And in here we have the date and the time that's stored in the date object. Basically, the JavaScript dates are stored as numeric value equals to the number of milliseconds between the specific date and January 1st, 1970 at midnight. For instance, date object for May 23rd, 2018 at 2:35:05 p.m. has a hidden value equals to 1,500 200 whatever millisecond. Fortunately, we don't have to work with this millisecond directly. We can actually use some JavaScript method to extract those information from the date. So basically, these are the methods that we can extract the information. So in here, this date.get seconds means the second, this date.get minutes, the description is minute, and so on. We can actually use these. So let's look at this screen for displaying date and times. So in here, we are declaring the date string variable containing the text string of the current date, and we are actually declaring the time string containing the text string of current time. This to local data string method, so when we have these in parentheses, means this is a method that returns the text of the current. date using local conventions. And then in here, after this comment, we have document dot get element by date now dot inner HTML, which is equals to date str, which display the value of the date string variable, and then this plus sign combines the multiple text string. So you want to if you want to show this and this together, you're using this plus sign basically that combines the multiple text string or concatenates it into a single text string. And then we have the time str, which display the value of the time string that we have here. You can see the result of this in page 699, which you can see that it will show the current time, and then it will in this part it will show the date, and then it will show the current time, like as you can see 2:35:05. That's the time that is showing there. JavaScript also supports methods to change the date stored with a date object. Changing date is often used in programs that involve setting the value of a future date or time, such as expiration date for an online membership, or basically an online calendar that is used in creating events. So this diagram summarize the methods supported by the JavaScript date object that is used for setting date and time values. So this is the date method, sets the day of the month where the value is integer, and then you can use this kind of a method to set the 4-digit year. You can use this kind of a method to set the 24-hour date, and so on. So if you have variable this date equals new date, May 23rd, 2017, you can use the method that's called this date dot set full year. So we are going to put the set full year 2018. So this basically sets the 4-digit year value of the date where the value is integer. So you can actually this method, you can change the date stored in this variable from whatever it was before, maybe it was in 2017, to the new date, which is the 2018. In the next session, we will use the set full year method in the countdown clock to be able to calculate the number of days, hours, minutes, and seconds remaining until the New Year's. So please do the exercises for this session 9.1 and 9.2, and then next week we will actually cover session 9.3 and some more material about JavaScript, and then we will finish this chapter 9, and then we will go to chapter 10, which we will talk about arrays, loops, and conditional statement. So have a great night, and please look at the group project. You are set in the groups of 2, and basically the project is explained, but if you have any question, please feel free to contact me. I kind of divided the project into few steps. So your project 2 is basically due on November 8th, and so after we cover chapter 10, we are going to stop with the material, and you will get to have more chances to work on your group project, on the final project, which is going to be due the last day of the classes. Have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.